Hey, it's Matt from Tradesman Digital Marketing. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through call extensions. I'm going to walk you through how to set them up, why they're important, and my general recommendations for call extensions. So first off, what is a call extension inside Google Ads? And essentially, a call extension is this. It's a little extension on your ad that allows the consumer to directly call you. It bypasses all of the email inquiries, it bypasses your entire landing page or website, and it lets the customer call you directly. It saves a lot of time, and they can be really effective if done correctly. And some industries are really good for, some they spend too much money and they're not really good for return. It really depends on your circumstance, but for most industries, you should be using a call extension. Make sure to test it. Go in and check your actual statistics on it. See if they're converting well. See if your cost per lead is low. Most of the time, the cost per lead is really low on these because the people searching for these are in a rush. They want the very first company that pops up. They're just going to call them and go with whatever service pops up first. These are generally really, really good for most campaigns. Now, how do we go about creating a call extension for our campaign? The first thing we have to do is click on the campaign we want to add our call extension to. So for this one, we're just going to do search 15 this campaign. We're going to click on ads and extensions. We're going to come down here to extension, and then we're going to click on the giant blue plus icon, and we're going to scroll down to call extension here. We're going to click on that, and then this is going to pop up. Essentially what this is the creation page for your call extension. And there is several important things to note here. One is we can add this to an account level, a campaign level, or an ad group level. Most of the time you won't need to add it to an ad group level. It's either going to be a campaign or account level. I generally recommend a campaign level for most businesses. If you have multiple services and they're going to different phone numbers or different businesses, you should be using a campaign level just because your campaign is more than likely going to be segmented by a service. So if you have maybe HVAC as one of them, maybe pool installations, another service you offer, or, fencing or whatever, these are all going to be in different campaigns. So I would recommend segmenting it by campaign. But if you only have one business, you can definitely just do it by account and make sure all the phone numbers just go to one call extension, which is kind of nice to do. You don't have to keep re-entering it. It's very nice and useful. The next thing is create a new call extension. So if you don't already have one, we're just going to hit create new. And this is very important. Please don't overlook this. I've seen quite a few call extensions denied or disabled because they didn't select the right country that the actual phone number is in. So I'm going to use a number here in Canada for Elite Pools. This is just a demo account. Shout out to Elite Pools. And I'm going to use their phone number, and we're going to just paste it in here. Make sure this is an actual phone number. It does work. And make sure the number is somewhere on your website or landing page. If it's not, sometimes Google is funny with it and it'll deny it because there's no relationship to your website or landing page that the call extension is going to be a part of, and it'll deny it. So make sure this phone number is somewhere on the landing page or website. Very important. The next thing is actual call reporting. This should be turned on by default. We want to know where our calls are coming from, if this is useful for us, if this isn't useful for us, and if it's going to be effective for campaign success. Now, you can create your own conversion action, and you can set whatever you want for the amount of time you want a call to register for. So maybe it's like 5 seconds, maybe it's 30 seconds. You can do that in conversion settings. All you have to do is come up here to tools and settings, hit conversions, open this up in a new tab, and this is going to pop up. And what we're going to do is hit create a new conversion action. We're going to do phone calls, we're going to do extensions, and we're going to hit continue. And now we can just put call extension, and we can come down here. If you want to assign a value to it, you absolutely can. So maybe you figured out the math and every single phone call is worth X amount for you. Most businesses don't have that figured out. So I usually just don't use a value for this. And then you can also set a count. Now this is very important as well. Do we want to count every phone call as a conversion even if the person calls back, or do we only want to add one? I generally recommend just one, because if the same person calls back, we don't want to count that as a secondary conversion. It's the same person. And another thing we can do is add call length. So how long does this call have to go on for it to count as a conversion? I generally recommend 5 seconds. This gets rid of a lot of people who accidentally click and call. You can extend it if you want. You can set it lower. Whatever you want to do, whatever is more relevant to your business, you can absolutely do this. The next thing is the click-through conversion window, meaning if this person calls back in 30 days, do we want them to count as a conversion again? Or do we want to extend that? So you can set this to a maximum of 60 days. So if someone comes back after 60 days, they'll count as a conversion again. I normally put this as 60 days. The next thing is attribution model. I normally leave this as data driven. Way back when last click was the most important thing. when it comes to attribution. So we would give all the attribution to, the Google call extension, instead of if someone came back and they landed on your landing page and they filled out an email form, which one do we give more attribution to? Do we want the email? Do we want, the phone call from the call extension? This is kind of complicated, but for most people, data driven is completely fine, and you can just leave it like that. And we're just going to hit create and continue. Our conversion for our call extension is now set up. And what we can do, as you can see here, it's now popped up. We can come back here to our call reporting. I'm just going to hit refresh because it might not have saved. All right, after refreshing the page, our call extension conversion action is now set up. So we are only going to track calls that are at least 5 seconds long in, I believe it was a 60-day window we set it for, whatever we set it for. And then we can also change our call interaction bid adjustment. If you have no data in this, leave this blank. And then later on, if say call extensions are really amazing, you're getting a lot of leads that are really cheap, you can actually bid more on these, meaning you'll actually pay a higher price, but you'll get more of them. You can change that. If they're doing really terrible, you can also decrease the bid and pay less for them, but then again, you're not going to get as many clicks. It really depends on your circumstance. Now for advanced options, we can select device preference as mobile. I generally recommend going with the data on this one. Sometimes they do pop up for search results on like a computer or a tablet. You can set it for only mobile devices. Most campaigns I work with will only set it for mobile devices, but I generally recommend following the data. Sometimes PCs and tablets work just as well. It really depends on the data and service you're offering. So I would say follow the data on this before checking that off. And the next thing is extension scheduling. And what this is essentially you can set your extension to run from a certain date and end on a certain date. And I generally don't recommend this. This is just overcomplicating your account. I really think it's a bad idea for most campaigns to be starting and ending certain extensions and then have your campaign start and end on a certain day and your ad group start and end on a certain day. It's just overcomplicating everything. Just set your campaign to start and end date on one day. I really don't see much use for this. And the same thing goes for the actual days you want your call extension to run on. Maybe if you had maybe weekends or something, you don't want to receive calls, you only want to receive email inquiries. I guess you could do that, but in most cases, this is just not really applicable for most people. And our call extension is now finished. All we have to do is hit save, and our call extension will be added and tracked once we have some data in here. So congratulations on studying out the call extension. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about this, let me know in the comments section down below. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day and take care.